Hi, my name is Jackie and I am with Heartland Quilting Company, and this is our first block of the month. We are doing the Spotlight block. It's our first block. Some of you have started to receive your kits in the mail. If you haven't received it, it should be to you very soon. I am going to go over a few things because when you open up your kit, you might get a little bit confused when reading the pattern. Don't worry, so was I, and that's one of the reasons why I wanted to make sure to come to you with a video to go over all of the different things so you're not so confused. One thing I want to let you know, ladies and gentlemen, is if you would like to, please feel free to post pictures, make comments, or anything on the business page, either on Facebook or MeWe, whichever social media outlet you are on. And also, if you are interested or if you need any help, please feel free to message me directly, and I can help answer any of your questions that you have specific to your kit. Okay, so I'm going to kind of go over some things to try to touch on everybody's kit because of everybody's kit being so unique. You might have received something different than you might see here. So if you are still confused or you're still not sure about something, please feel free to message me. We can also set up an appointment to do a video chat to where we can talk back and forth and we can show each other things to make sure that you understand what it is that you have going on. Okay? So the Spotlight block. Now, the first thing that might be confusing to you when you are looking at your pattern is it shows a picture of the block, and then underneath it shows the materials requirements. It says that you need background fabric, and then it says a yellow fabric and a blue fabric. However, in the picture, it doesn't show anything yellow, and so you're like, what? Just know that also when you're looking at your fabrics that you received, you might have more options than just 3. And there is a really good reasoning for that. The original quilt is very what we call scrappy. That means that the blocks that are the same actually they use different fabrics to create the same block so that no two are exactly the same. So kind of going off of that, but making a little bit adjustments here and there is why in your kit you have more options. So don't worry, we're going to go over that super quick. So just know that at the top on the back side of your instructions, it will have instructions for cutting your background fabric, yellow fabric, and blue fabric. Just know when those cutting instructions, when you are cutting the background, you are cutting the pieces for all 4 corners, in between the corners of the diamond and the center. That is going to be your background fabric. That is this color here. Some of you have a different color for your background, but when you have your kit, you'll know it's the background because it's actually the largest folded piece of fabric in your kit. So it's going to be that large folded in half this way and then folded out this way, okay? That's your background fabric. Then when you get to your other fabrics, you might have, let me get this out of the way. You might have what we call fat eighths. That's where you take a fat quarter of fabric and cut it in half long ways. You might have 4 of those. And that measures 9 inches by 20 to 22 inches of fabric. That's called a fat eighth. And if you have 4 of those, that's great. Some of you might have one that measures 9 inches on this short side, but then the other ones measure 8. That's okay too. And I'm going to explain which ones you need to cut for what to make sure you have enough for all of your blocks that you need to make. Some of you received what we call layer cakes, and that is a 10-inch square of fabric. If all you received is just these layer cakes and the background, you will have received a total of 7 squares. 2 of those squares should be the same fabric, and the other 5 most likely different. If that's the case, if you want all 5 of your blocks, because we are going to be making 5 total of these blocks, if you want all 5 of your blocks to have the same fabric for your corner triangles, then you need to use those 2 blocks that are the same. Let me see if I have these 2 here. These 2 blocks that are the same to cut the squares needed for the yellow fabric. The yellow fabric in the instructions and in the cut instructions, remember, are for the fabric you want to be in your corners. So you have the option of choosing how you want to make it. So you get to decide how you want to make it with the fabrics in your kit. You just want to make sure that when you're cutting, that you are cutting to where, one, you still might have some fabric left over that you can save and use in other blocks as we go along. And or if we make a mistake, which we all do, and it's one of those mistakes where you can't come back from it, you have some extra that you are able to make another block. Okay? So there's some basic information on that. So, cutting the background fabric, what you're going to do, first, what you want to do is you want to iron all of your fabric pieces that come so that it's nice and flat. You're going to lay it out short side the wide way. You're going to take a long ruler. You want a ruler that goes all the way across the shortest, the width side of the fabric. The first thing you want to do is you want to make a nice straight line to cut off the selvage of the fabric. The selvage is that edge that comes with the fabric when it's on the bolt. Usually it's a little bit extra, it's a little thicker than the rest of the fabric, and you want to cut that off. You don't need that. So you're going to cut that straight line, and then what you're going to do is you're going to make strips that are 3 1/4 inches wide. So you're going to do the whole length of your background is going to be 3 1/4 inch wide strips. Once you have those strips, I don't have any strips to show you, but your strips will look something like this. And you should be able to get 3 squares out of 1 strip of fabric. Now, the first thing you're going to want to do, sometimes the side of the fabric might not be completely straight. So using the top and bottom cuts that you made, line your ruler up with those to make a nice straight, line them up with the straight edges of the top and the bottom, then cut a little bit off of the one side so that you have a nice straight line there as well. And then what you're going to do is you're going to place the ruler over here and measure out 3 1/4 inches. Make sure it's lined up on all 3 sides. Hold it down and make a cut, and that'll be your first square of your background fabric, and it'll be 3 1/4 inches. When you're all done, you should actually have a little bit more than 40 background squares. You actually get a few more just in case you make a mistake, or you can save those for a later block. But you'll have 40 total background squares, 3 1/4 inches wide. Now, next direction, when you're looking at the cutting instructions, it is giving you cutting instructions for one block. We're making a total of 5 blocks from this pattern. So the next thing it says is to cross cut 6 of the squares once diagonally to yield 12 triangles. So we're going to be making the triangles that we're going to be using here. Okay, and so what you're going to do is you're going to take a square, and I like to use a little bit smaller ruler. If you have a ruler that has this diagonal line going straight through, that's really helpful. And what you're going to do is you're going to take that diagonal line and you're going to line it up with one edge of your square. And then you're going to, what you're going to do is you're going to put the top corner and the bottom corner right at the very edge of your straight edge across here. And you want to make sure that this 45-degree angle lines up and that it's going through both points. Once that's done, you'll take your ruler, or your rotary cutter, I'm sorry, and you will cut those 2 squares. You're going to do that with, for one block, you need 5 more. So you total need 30 of these squares. You will do that to make a total of 60 triangles like this. So you'll cut that in half, and then you'll end up with 2 triangles like this. Okay? So you'll have your stack of squares, you'll have your stack of background triangles, and you'll put that to the side. Next thing you're going to want to do for your cutting is the yellow fabric. Remember, the yellow fabric is what you decide you want to use for the corner triangles in your block. If you want all of your blocks to have the same color for the corners, that's what I chose to do. I chose to have one of my fabrics be the yellow fabric, the corner triangles in all of my blocks, even though the diamond shape is going to be different on the different blocks. All of them are going to have the same corner triangles. So if that's what you want to do and you have nothing but the layer cakes in your kit, if you do not have this size, don't worry. This is just for the people who did receive layer cakes in their kit. Now, if you received there's some layer cakes and there's some fat 8s, remember that's the 9 inches by 20 to 22 inches pieces of fabric. If you have 2 layer cakes that are the same, that is so you can do it however you want. If you want them to be completely mix matched, they will still all go together wonderfully because all the colors will go together really well. But if you want there to be some sort of something the same, or you want to make all of those corner square or triangles to be the same, then you do that with like I'm doing. Then you do that with 2 of the layer cakes. You're going to lay them directly on top of each other. The layer cakes have a zigzag cut on them. Okay, and we're just going to remove that with our ruler. So what you're going to do, the first thing you're going to do is you're going to just want to try to get this as straight as possible, just inside where those zigzags are, and you're going to want to cut those zigzags off. That'll give you a nice straight line to be able to use for your next cut. And what you're going to do is you are going to cut, your square into 3 1/4 inch strips. So 3 1/4 inch, all the way down. You should be able to get 3 strips out of 1 layer cake. And then you're going to do the same thing like you did with the background fabric, is then you're going, because you're making 3 1/4 inch squares, you're going to then straighten the one side and then cut your, cut that fabric into 3 1/4 inch squares. When you cut both, if you cut both layer cake pieces together, you should have a total of 18 squares. That's going to be more than what you need, actually. So if you want to save some of your fabric, you can cut 1 square into the 3 strips and then cut those into squares. That'll give you 9. You need a total of 10 for all 5 blocks. So then you can cut 1 more strip out of the other one, save the rest of that piece, put it to the side for using it on another kit later on, or maybe you want to use it if you make a mistake or anything like that. But any of your scraps that are probably about 1 inch or bigger, you might want to go ahead and hold on to those, because we might be able to use those later on in the other kits, and it gives you more options if you choose to do that. So then that will be the cuts you need for the yellow fabric. Remember, the yellow fabric in the instructions is the fabric for the cornerstones. Next, we need to cut the fabric. These are going to be rectangles that we're going to cut for the blue fabric, and that's the fabric that will make the diamond shape in our block. Okay, the diamond shape in our block. That's the blue fabric in the instructions. If you have layer cakes again, and I'm going to go back to those who have the that do not have layer cakes at all, and go over that in just a second. But if you have layer cakes, you should have 5 more layer cakes besides the 2 that you just finished cutting for those corner triangles. On the other layer cakes, what you're going to do is 1 layer cake is what you will use for 1 block. So you're going to cut, the directions need us to cut, you're going to make strips of 2 1/8 of an inch. Now, 1/8 of an inch, for those of you who are not sure, when you're on a ruler, we have that little tiny one right there, the first one, that's 1/8, and then we have 1/4, 3/8, 1/2, 5/8, 3/4, and then 7/8, and then 1 inch. Okay, so when you are measuring out, you're going to measure 2, and then that first little line is what you're going to measure your straight edge with to make those strips. One thing you want to make sure is when you are cutting, you want to make sure you have direct pressure on your ruler all the way across, and that when you're using your rotary cutter, you're not pressing into too much pressure into your ruler, because that will actually make your ruler shift, and then your pieces will not be straight. So make sure that you measure, and then you look, and then when you go to put it down, you want to look again. You always want to double, triple check that you are on the right thing. And then when you're on there, you want to be against that ruler, but you don't want to put too much pressure into the ruler. Just let it be a guide. And if you're having trouble with cutting with your rotary cutter, it might mean that your blade might be dull, and it might be time for a new blade. So if you have a fresh blade, it should be very easy just to go ahead and cut those. Now, once you've cut them 2 1/4, then you need to cut them 7 3/4 long. Okay, so you're going to take this strip and you're going to go 7 3/4 and cut it, and then you will make your strips like this. So for one block you need 4, so you need a total of 20. And so just as long as you have 4, you need 4 of one print, and if you want, and then you'll have 4 of another print, and then 4, total of 5 for all of your blocks. Okay, that's how you cut it from the layer cakes. From the fat 8s, remember fat 8s is the long fabric, 9 inches wide across here. A few of you have one that's 9 inches wide, and then the other ones are 8 inches wide. How that's going to be is the one piece that is 9 inches wide, that's the piece you're going to use to cut your corner squares. The yellow fabric, so the little bit wider one, that's the one you're going to use for the yellow fabric cutting. And then the rest of them you're going to use for the blue fabric cutting, or the rectangles, okay? So when you're cutting for the yellow fabric, you're going to lay it just like we did with the background fabric, and you're going to cut off the selvage, nice straight line. You're going to cut 3 1/4 inches and make rows, and then from each strip, a row strip, you're going to then cut 3 1/4 inch square, and you should be able to get 3 out of one strip. Again, you need a total of 20 squares for the yellow fabric. So if you want to stop, instead of cutting your strips all the way down, if you want to stop before right at 20 and then save that piece for later, you're more than welcome to do that. That actually is the smarter way, because then you have extra fabric to use later on in case you want to swap out a piece for something, or you need more for fixing a mistake. That's then when you're cutting the blue fabric, that is the diamond shaped pieces. You're going to be cutting those rectangles out. Again, that's for the people who've received the fat 8s or the skinnier pieces. If you got nothing but fat 8s, remember that's the 9 inches wide by the 22 inches long. If they're all the same, then you just pick one that you want for your yellow fabric, and then the other ones for your blue fabric cutting. When you go to cut for your blue fabric, you're going to lay your fabric out. You're going to cut off the selvage and a straight. You're going to make strips of 2 1/8 inches wide, and then you're going to take those strips and then cut them down, cutting off both sides so you have a nice straight line, using your cuts on the top and the bottom as your guide, to 7 3/4. All of those measurements are right here at the top on the back side of your instructions, okay? And that's the instructions under the blue fabric, okay? Now remember, the numbers that they show here are for one block. We are making a total of 5. And I know I've been talking a lot about the cutting, but I want to make sure everybody has that down, so that when it comes time for us to put our blocks together, we all have, so when you're done cutting, you should have at least 40, okay, no, I'm sorry. You started out with 40 squares of your background fabric. You took 6, and then for one block, I'm sorry, I'm thinking in my mind. For one block, you need to take 6 of those squares, and cut them in half long ways to make triangles. So one square, you'll cut long ways like this. For 2 triangles, you need 6 total for 1 block. So that means you need, 12 total for 1 block, 6 squares, cut in half to make 12 triangles for 1 block. So that means you need 6 times 5 is 30. So you need to take 30 of those squares, cut them in half, and you should have 60 total in your pile, 60 total triangles of your background fabric. So you'll have the triangles, your background squares. You have your squares for your yellow fabric, which is those corner triangles, and then you have your rectangle pieces for your diamond. And the next video I will be showing you how to put the block together. See you soon. Bye.